prenatal development. Now we turn our attention to prenatal development, which is divided into 3 periods: the germinal period, the embryonic period, and the fetal period. The following is an overview of some of the changes that take place during each period. The germinal period. The germinal period, about 14 days in length, lasts from conception to implantation of the fertilized egg in the lining of the uterus. At ejaculation, millions of sperm are released into the vagina, but only a few reach the egg, and typically only one fertilizes the egg. Once a single sperm has entered the wall of the egg, the wall becomes hard and prevents other sperm from entering. After the sperm has entered the egg, the tail of the sperm breaks off, and the head of the sperm, containing the genetic information from the father, unites with the nucleus of the egg. It is typically fertilized in the top section of the fallopian tube and continues its journey to the uterus. As a result, a new cell is formed. This cell, containing the combined genetic information from both parents, is referred to as a zygote. During this time, the organism begins cell division through mitosis. After 5 days of mitosis, there are 100 cells, which is now called a blastocyst. The blastocyst consists of both an inner and outer group of cells. The inner group of cells, or embryonic disc, will become the embryo, while the outer group of cells, or trophoblast, becomes the support system which nourishes the developing organism. This stage ends when the blastocyst fully implants into the uterine wall. Mitosis is a fragile process, and fewer than 1/2 of all zygotes survive beyond the first 2 weeks. Some of the reasons for this include the egg and sperm do not join properly, thus their genetic material does not combine. There is too little or damaged genetic material, the zygote does not replicate, or the blastocyst does not implant into the uterine wall. The failure rate is higher for in vitro conceptions. The embryonic period. Starting the 3rd week, the blastocyst has implanted in the uterine wall. Upon implantation, this multicellular organism is called an embryo. Now, blood vessels grow, forming the placenta. The placenta is a structure connected to the uterus that provides nourishment and oxygen from the mother to the developing embryo via the umbilical cord. During this period, cells continue to differentiate. Growth during prenatal development occurs in 2 major directions, from head to tail, called cephalocaudal development, and from the midline outward, referred to as proximodistal development. This means that those structures nearest the head develop before those nearest the feet, and those structures nearest the torso develop before those away from the center of the body, such as hands and fingers. You will see that this pattern continues after birth. The head develops in the 4th week, and the precursor to the heart begins to pulse. In the early stages of the embryonic period, gills and a tail are apparent. However, by the end of this stage, they disappear, and the organism takes on a more human appearance. About 20% of organisms fail during the embryonic period, usually due to chromosomal abnormalities, often before the mother even knows she is pregnant. It is during this stage that the major structures of the body are taking form, making the embryonic period the time when the organism is most vulnerable to the greatest amount of damage if exposed to harmful substances. Prospective mothers are not often aware of the risks they introduce to the developing embryo during this time. The embryo is approximately 1 inch in length and weighs about 4 grams at the end of 8 weeks. The embryo can move and respond to touch at this time. The fetal period. From the 9th week until birth, which is 40 weeks for a full-term pregnancy, the organism is referred to as a fetus. During this stage, the major structures are continuing to develop. By the 3rd month, the fetus has all its body parts, including external genitalia. The fetus is about 3 inches long and weighs about 28 grams. In the following weeks, the fetus will develop hair, nails, teeth, and the excretory and digestive systems will continue to develop. Between 4 to 6 months, the eyes become more sensitive to light, and hearing develops. The respiratory system continues to develop, and reflexes such as sucking, swallowing, and hiccuping develop during the 5th month. Cycles of sleep and wakefulness are present at this time as well. The first chance of survival outside the womb, known as the age of viability, is reached at about 24 weeks. Many practitioners hesitate to resuscitate before 24 weeks. The majority of the neurons in the brain have developed by 24 weeks, although they are still rudimentary, and the glial or nerve cells that support neurons continue to grow. At 24 weeks, the fetus can feel pain. Between 7 to 9 months, the fetus is primarily preparing for birth. It is exercising its muscles, and its lungs begin to expand and contract. The fetus gains about 5 pounds and 7 inches during this last trimester of pregnancy. And during the 8th month, a layer of fat develops under the skin. This layer of fat serves as insulation and helps the baby regulate body temperature after birth. At around 36 weeks, the fetus is almost ready for birth. It weighs about 6 pounds and is about 18.5 inches long. By week 37, all of the fetus's organ systems are developed enough that it could survive outside the mother's uterus without many of the risks associated with premature birth. The fetus continues to gain weight and grow in length until approximately 40 weeks. By then, the fetus has very little room to move around and birth becomes imminent.